Hi everybody, welcome back to Ox Talks. It is October 25th, 2023. If you are getting something out of the content in these videos, I'd really appreciate you subscribing to the channel, also sharing these videos with your family and friends, and hitting the like button. I really appreciate it. Well, this morning I had a case that I handled a hearing on, and it involves a relatively complicated real estate dispute. But I've talked previously on a show about how you really want to be very, very careful having handshake deals and having agreements that are not reduced to writing. And I will tell you, in the context of the real estate field, at least in California, a contract for the sale of real property must be in writing. It's something called the statute of frauds. And there are exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, oral contracts for the sale of real property are unenforceable. So you obviously want to check the rules and the laws in your state and your jurisdiction. But aside from just not being smart business practice, a lot of times you'll find yourself in court, and if you are the one trying to enforce the oral agreement, you may have some substantial hurdles in trying to do so, even after you've expended substantial resources and time with regard to a particular piece of property. So again, keep that in mind. Always have your agreements put in writing by a qualified attorney or professional. I just saw a story come out a little while ago on the Zero Hedge that I think is worth mentioning. It says Israel delays Gaza invasion again as the U.S. scrambles to put missile defenses in place. The article says both U.S. and Israel officials have told the Wall Street Journal in a breaking major development that Israel has decided to further stall its planned ground invasion of Gaza at the request of Washington. It has become clear in the last several days that Israel has been waiting in terms of a ground assault. It says the Wall Street Journal frames this further delay, however, as relating to putting additional air defense from the U.S. in place. This is really serious. It says the Pentagon is scrambling to deploy nearly a dozen air defense systems to the region, including for U.S. troops serving in Iraq, Syria, Kuwait, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. And that says to protect them from missiles and rockets. U.S. officials have so far persuaded the Israelis to hold off until those pieces can be placed as early as later this week. And the article says this is a sign that Washington is bracing for significant escalation to come. So we all need to be keeping a very close eye and watch on what's going on in Israel and how the U.S. is responding to this and what the U.S. may be foreseeing is going to happen. It's going to, I believe, have a further constriction on resources in terms of oil. We've saw some articles the last couple of days about the price of ammunition going up substantially now and being more unavailable in certain calibers. So keep watch on this. It wouldn't hurt to, again, stock up on certain supplies, stock up on certain matters that are important for your personal defense and protection of your family and the things that you have put together in terms of your preps. Shifting gears a bit to the landlord-tenant relationship. I saw an article earlier. It says King County backlog means homeless homeowner must wait 5 months to evict a deadbeat tenant. I think I touched briefly on this in a prior video, but if you are a landlord or you're considering buying property to rent, thereby becoming a landlord, it is really important that you vet your tenant to the best that you possibly can. And when I say vet your tenant, what that means is do your due diligence as to this tenant's background. We talk about how the person's credit score gives an indication or a glimpse into how responsible they are. Are they paying their bills on time? Does their credit report, which as a landlord you always should be getting a copy of and reviewing carefully, does that credit report contain a whole lot of late payments, missed payments, potential defaults, potential prior bankruptcy, potential prior foreclosure. Those are matters that as a tenant you want to be paying very, very careful attention to, because if there's a track record there of a tenant not making good on obligations, credit card obligations, other matters, it is likely, maybe even probable, that that person is not going to be a reliable tenant when it comes to the payment of rent, and will likely also not show the same level of respect and consideration to your property. So looking at the credit report, the credit history, looking at the tenant's cash on hand, looking at the tenant's current bank statements, looking at the tenants, maybe even their tax returns, find out, are they suitable for your property, not just in terms of financially, but also, meet these people, see if they are people that you get a good feeling about. You can have a management company handling this stuff for you, but a management company is going to be evaluating just certain factors in a vacuum. If you're in the proximity where the property is located, consider having some face-to-face contact with your proposed or purported tenants. I don't believe there's any downside to that. The article I'll share with you in a second talks about up in Seattle area how the courts, the unlawful detainer courts, are so backlogged with cases that if you are a landlord that needs to evict a tenant for non-payment of rent, you may be waiting months and months to get a court date if that tenant decides to put up some kind of a defense. And so it's going to vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, state by state, but you want to have a really good handle on the current status of the unlawful detainer courts in the jurisdiction where your rental property is located. If something happens, how long is it going to take you to get this tenant out? And, mark my words, as soon as that tenant gets a notice to vacate for non-payment of rent, they're not going to start paying rent. They're going to not pay rent for the entire time that it takes you to get them into court. And if it's many, many months, you're going to be having to carry the cost of that property for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months while that tenant lives there basically for free. But if you have debt on the property, you're going to have to keep servicing that mortgage, keep paying the taxes, keep paying the insurance, keep paying the utilities if the tenant is not paying them and obligated to do so. So these things are all very, very important when you're going to consider being a landlord. I certainly support that and believe that having a good portfolio of rental properties is a way to create some excellent income and also to create some generational wealth for your family and your loved ones as that real estate over time appreciates and your portfolio grows. But you don't want to get in a situation where you have nightmare tenants if you can avoid it. And again, like with most legal matters, you can't always foresee everything, but I think a lot of these disputes can be avoided if you properly vet your tenants ahead of time. Things happen, tenants fall on hard times, there's an emergency they haven't foreseen, they lose a job, things do happen. But again, if those people have the right moral ethics and personality, that they will understand, that they will need to return possession of your property to you and not force you to go through the entire legal process, you can judge that character for the most part if you're doing it ahead of time and meeting with these people. Anyway, here's this article I'll share with you. It says out of Seattle, this is yesterday, Jason Roth is a homeless homeowner. He has been living in his van while his tenant, Kareem Hunter, is months behind on rent and was illegally listing the home as a short-term rental on Airbnb. This created massive utility bills, which will also fall onto the landlord. Monday, the two faced off in court, and it says our Jesse Jones, evidently the reporter, was there. And it says, Roth said he just wants his house back. I'm sick of sleeping in my van and on couches. I just want to be back in my house. Jason was assigned today's court date by the commissioner on August 16th. He's been patiently staying in his van waiting for months for King County to evict the tenant. According to the commissioner, King County has a backlog of over 6 600 cases. It says Friday, Hunter got a free lawyer. Hunter's the tenant, got a free lawyer through King County Bar Association's Housing Justice Project, while Jason, as the landlord, must pay for his legal expenses out of pocket. And since this is the first hearing, continuances were customary. It says, as a result, Jason's own nightmare housing situation continues. King County Commissioner set the trial for the next available date, which is March 12th, 2024. It says, so Jason will be living in his van for another 5 months. Obviously, that's an extreme case of a situation where we don't know the factual background. Possibly this owner / landlord felt compelled to rent the property out to generate some income while, crashing on friends' couches and living out of his car. Obviously, if you're in that situation, you want to use extra caution because you could, find yourself having a double whammy here, something to deal with that will be insurmountable for you. And look, this court date is now not set in this case until March of next year. Again, it could be extreme. They say the backlog in that county is 600 cases. But if you're looking to buy real estate out of your immediate area where you may be unfamiliar with the laws, the courts, and the status of those unlawful detainer courts, that's something for you as a landlord to keep in mind. I hope that was helpful for you. I guess, you might say, well, it's common sense, but, vetting, there are different levels of vetting, and if you don't do it yourself and dig into the information, you're gonna be relying on somebody else to assess the quality of that proposed tenant, and that's probably not a good idea. It will save you a lot of hassle, heartache, legal fees down the road if you do some of that legwork yourself. With that being said, please, I hope all of you will get your exercise in today. Get your 30 minutes of walking in. Put the papers down. Head outside your office if it's nice weather, and get your steps in. Hit some push-ups today, some sit-ups, and please keep the water intake up so you're hydrated. Things are escalating over the Middle East, and we want to keep an eye on that. At home, we know things are continuing to collapse at a rapid pace. So be watchful, keep your head on a swivel, and until tomorrow, have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.